Welcome back to the podcast again, everybody. We're back here with Scotty the Master. He's about to tell us
What's going on?
He's about to tell us why Dave Chappelle is a bigot.
So Dave Chappelle has this new sketch on Netflix.
Sticks and Stones.
Yep, and
Pretty popular
it's hilarious. Dave Chappelle is my favorite comedian
He's
for
funny.
sure.
He's damn funny.
But he tells this joke about school shooters,
Okay.
and it's terrible.
Spoilers ahead, guys. So if you haven't seen it, I would definitely suggest go and see it.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in hearing this.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. It's like bad. It's Dave Chappelle.
No, I know.
So it's
everything
bad.
he said in the episode, from what I saw, was just
It's
crazy
bad, yeah.
shit. He was
But it's
going
great.
after people.
It's so funny, and it's funny how times have changed to where he even said himself he can't even do comedy because
I know.
everybody just gets.
Even though it's at a comedy club and everyone knows it's a joke, for some reason people are so butthurt and whatever. So
And
go ahead.
he got a lot of backlash for it too.
I know. On Rotten
got a
Tomatoes, he got
lot of-
0%.
Yeah.
How the fuck's that? But on the audience rating, he got 99%.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a big
Yeah.
difference between the critics and apparently they only let, from what I heard, was they only let 5 super progressive critics rate it for the Rotten Tomatoes, which is odd, and they all
Yeah.
hated it. So it's like something. Yeah, it's just weird. Go ahead.
Yeah. So
What was the actual bit?
okay. So he started. It actually started earlier in the sketch or whatever, and he talked about how Robin Williams he talked about Anthony Bourdain and how he killed himself.
Right.
And then he talked about a personal experience with a close friend who who went to Yale, or I forget, it was some Ivy League school. He was
Right.
going to be a lawyer. He had everything set for him. He got married. She got divorced. Lost everything, and he came back to where he like grew up, and he went into a Foot Locker, and it was the same dude that was in school for a lawyer at a Foot Locker with the referee uniform on, just like working the Foot Locker. So and so he related that to Anthony Bourdain by saying it never occurred to him to kill himself. And then he went on to say, no matter like how you think somebody's life is, you never really know what's going on like underneath the surface. And so back to the school shooting thing, which ties into that as well. He was talking about how his kids had a school shooting drill, and he asked his kids or whatever, like, he's never heard of it. It's like he was dumbfounded. And he was, I never had that or whatever. And then he was like, technically, aren't you training the shooter too? And I just lost it. And I was like, that's so true. That is the truest statement.
That is pretty. I didn't even hear that one. That's fucking funny. Though.
And I was just like, I sat there for a second and I was like, that's so true. What are these people thinking?
No.
I really don't know.
Shit. I'm surprised that episode got to so many people though, because back on, comedy's taking a big hit nowadays because of the large progressive movement, and it just doesn't make sense to me, because I feel like if the world doesn't have comedy, what does it have? I feel like comedy is something that bonds us all together, and it's something that's so important in today's age. Being able to laugh at yourself is obviously a big key characteristic that's obviously great to have. But this special it really ruffled some feathers. I thought it was great. I know that we both enjoy that kind of dark, sadistic humor, and it's something that's funny because they push the limits. That's what makes it funnier. I feel like the more outlandish it is, the funnier it gets, and it's weird that, like, obviously everyone has their own sense of humor, so it makes sense that maybe someone doesn't enjoy it a whole lot, but I don't see how people prosecute it the way they do. It's kind of odd to me.
Yeah, and he also kind of talks about that as well or whatever. How he said that he feels the way white people felt when black people were going through the crack epidemic, because now white people are on the heroin epidemic, right? And he was like, I don't care either. So, and as time goes on, like I was saying a couple seconds ago, how everybody just is so, everything just gets under their skin, and no matter what you say, somebody's gonna have a different opinion about it. And that just comes down to self-confidence, pretty much.
Yeah, one of the weird things I saw was people were attacking, I can't remember exactly who it was. It was some famous high-up figure. They were having supplies, because you know what happened in the Bahamas, how there was a big hurricane.
Yeah.
So they were sending their private jet with supplies on it to go help those people out. And then someone attacked him and said, like, oh, how dare you use your private jet and more fossil fuel to hurt the climate change that caused this hurricane. And it's like, what the fuck are you trying to help the people out? Why would you go after someone who's just trying to help? I don't understand this. I don't even want to say it's a culture, because I feel like most people aren't like that. At least the people that I talk to and interact with day to day, I never feel this. But it's big on social media. I feel like there's this big movement. It's odd.
I feel like also social media has kind of been a resource for everybody becoming, I guess, softer, because the world's gotten so much smaller over time compared to, like I was saying, in the 1930s, and how they can't adapt to the change because it's happened so fast. And the world's gotten so much smaller. And if you think about it, back then, no planes, no social media, no way of communicating with anybody outside of, your town or wherever you are, because you had to write letters or walk, or they had cars, but they weren't where they are now. And so there was no other perspectives coming in other than their one village. And that kind of relates to social psychology. Or social change as well, where you live. And there was a case where there was this town of perfectly normal people. It was a cult, and they ended up 900 and something people ended up drinking poison
drink the
and
Kool-Aid.
Yep.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid, people. I keep telling you guys this one thing: do not drink the Kool-Aid. If someone's giving you the Kool-Aid, refuse that Kool-Aid.
But the crazy thing about it is they all agreed to it. All these parents, all these kids, these parents got their kids to all agree to it because they believed that was right.
I know the story, I just don't know it well. Did they all know that there was cyanide or whatever it was?
The guy was straight up with them about it. Yeah,
I didn't know that, because I thought, again, I thought it was either that way or no one knew about it and they were all just drinking this Kool-Aid in solidarity or whatever it was. Yeah. And they got that cool surprise at the end.
Yeah, no, it was a perfectly normal city. Like, they all had jobs. Like, the parents all had jobs. They had kids. They had families. They had friends.
Was it an Amish group? Why were they a cult?
Maybe. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me.
Could have been.
Yeah, who knows? But with the dark, sadistic humor, people just... You can't have that anymore. People just take offense to it too much.
Yeah, I agree. You see, they're okay. They did a lot of things where I was like, okay, well, let people do whatever they want. I don't really care. Now they've gone after ChickFilA. Do you see the ChickFilA opened up in Canada? I don't know if it was the first one or one of the newest ones. People are protesting. A ton of people outside of the ChickFilA. I don't know if they're scared of. They think they're selling like homophobic chicken. They're selling homophobic chicken, guys. This is bullshit. I just don't understand. Like another thing, what I was looking at on my Twitter was, people were pointing out, it just doesn't make sense. These people are protesting that when there's so much bigger issues. There's still many people that don't have water or food around the world, and we're mad that ChickFilA is owned by a dude who said some things, whatever even happened. I don't even know what happened. So maybe we shouldn't be talking about this, but I just know that going after ChickFilA is not the answer. I don't think it's gonna solve anything.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't actually understand is it's not ChickFilA necessarily the franchise. It was how it was. Yeah, it's not the chickens. Come on, everybody loves chickens. Good. Come on. No, it was how it was founded back in those times.
Do you know what exactly happened?
Yeah, Truett Cathy founded ChickFilA, okay. And so when he founded ChickFilA, he had a set guidelines or whatever, and it hasn't changed since then. It's just stuck true to that, and he's still alive. He lives in, I believe, Atlanta, Georgia, where the original Dwarf houses. That was ChickFilA. They're the first ChickFilA. And so nothing's changed, and so that's the thing about time. It's things are supposed to change over time, and so when things don't change, people are unhappy. And when they don't change, especially when it doesn't change in their way, that suits them because their life is the center of everything.
Right.
So
and it goes back to that ego thing, and maybe I think. At first I thought when I heard protests were going to ChickFilA, I thought they were protesting they were closed on Sundays, and I was about to grab my pitchfork and head over to the nearest ChickFilA. But I thought, I'm just kidding. I don't really care that it's closed on Sundays. I see the morals, and I respect the morals, and that's the one thing I don't understand why certain people don't respect the morals. And he says part of it, it's not necessarily because it's God's day or because people go to church. He said another big part of it is he just wants to give people a day off.
I was just going to go into that when you were done. Yeah, so cool. So when it first started, he was working every single hour. It was a 24-hour place. And so he was working all these hours, and all his employees were working all these hours. So he decided to give them Sunday so they can relax and have that day to themselves. Especially, it does tie into the religion, obviously, a part of it, but not all of it.
Right.
It's respectful for his employees, and it ties into good business.
Yeah.
You're more productive when you
have that time off. And
exactly.
My closing statement would be, don't prosecute the chickens, guys. The chickens didn't do anything wrong.
Chickens are cool.
Chickens are cool people, all right,
Eat
guys?
more chicken.
Eat more chicken. ChickFilA is good.
Yeah.
Have a great day, you guys.